Welcome everyone to Monday Morning Morons for September 17th, 2018. This week we're going to begin with unintended consequences. Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Now what could this possibly have to do with social justice, you ask? Well, study. STEM diversity efforts have unintended consequences. An Indiana University study finds that efforts to raise awareness of the lack of women in STEM are actually making women feel more out of place. Gee, I wonder why. I mean, it's not like we're running around telling women the system doesn't want them or that men in STEM all hate them or anything. Can't imagine where they got that idea. Indiana University psychology professor Ivana Petrie conducted the study titled Addressing Unintended Consequences of Gender Diversity Interventions on Women's Sense of Belonging in STEM. It was published on August 17th in the journal Sex Roles. Though researchers have previously theorized that STEM intervention efforts may backfire, this is the first study to use an experimental approach to illustrate, under laboratory conditions, how women in STEM advocacy may be backfiring. To do this, You totally spelled her name different this time. Whatever. Recruited 585 participants to watch videos on the STEM gender gap. Half of the participants watched videos depicting conversations between professors and students about the disparity, and each conversation was inspired by a specific research article. The rest of the participants watched a set of interviews with a male psychology professor describing how research on the STEM disparity is conducted. Unsurprisingly, the videos were effective in raising participants' bias literacy, or their ability to articulate various ways in which women are subjected to bias in STEM. In other words, we taught them how to say they're oppressed, and they started saying, "I'm oppressed." What a surprise. But the educational videos also had a downside. The videos increased awareness of gender bias in the sciences, which led women, but not men, to ultimately experience decreased anticipated belonging and trust, and increased negative effect and stereotype threat concerns about the STEM organization. Moreover, for women, awareness of gender bias in the sciences, i.e. gender bias literacy, was the mechanism underscoring their enhanced social identity threat, Petrie and her fellow researchers explained. In other words, we lectured them about inequality, we told them STEM is unfair, and all of a sudden these women decided, all on their own of course, that STEM hates women. Now they don't want to do it. I've been saying this for years, but no one listens. If you want to actually fix what you perceive to be inequality in STEM, stop telling women STEM is biased against them. Stop making them afraid to go into STEM fields. In your blind attempts to demonize men for simply existing, you are also telling women to be afraid of any place men are. In one breath, you babble something insane like, "Don't go there, evil, vile, despicable men are over there that will hate you, harass you, discriminate against you, rape you daily, and probably kill you." In the next breath, you wonder, why aren't women going into these fields of study? I mean, I just can't think of any reason at all, so it must be patriarchy. No, fuckhead, it's you. You're raising an entire generation of girls who are afraid to try because you painted STEM as the pit of hell. Gosh, I just can't imagine why they're not running right out there and jumping in that fire. You are teaching fear. You are teaching women they can't succeed, and in doing so, you are teaching women to choose more inequality. You did that, not some mythopoetic invisible force of nature. Speaking of unintended consequences, remember that whole Title IX thing that these feminist activists just love to throw around when they aren't getting their way? Well, Tulane under federal investigation for women-only scholarships. What's good for the goose, ladies? Does it violate Title IX to exclude men as a class from scholarships? The Department of Education's Office for Civil Rights is considering the question, opening an investigation into 6 women-only scholarships offered by the private Tulane University. In an August 20th letter that PJ Media obtained but did not make public, OCR announced it was looking at scholarships, including the Landor Lewis and Shirley Golf Awards, the Grasshopper Celebration Award, and the $2,000 summer internship funding grant, as possible examples of financial discrimination against male students. The office is also reviewing female-only mentoring and internship programs. None of the programs under review has a parallel for men, but because of backlog of Title IX investigations, it could take years for the OCR to reach a verdict, according to PJ Media. Male students are only 42% of Tulane enrollment, and they are less likely to graduate, making the boost for women more suspect. Looks like someone finally saw what I see. Why is college roughly 60-40 split in favor of women these days? Well, one reason is because there's a whole lot more so-called free money for women to go to college. These programs, grants, scholarships, etc. were all set up to promote more women in college, to make it easier for women to go to college. And as the data shows, it worked. Women now outnumber men in college. Trouble is, where is the money coming from? To oversimplify a bit here, think of it like this. If you're handing out free money to women, only one place left to get that money, isn't there? Men. Men are and have been subsidizing women's education for decades at the expense of their own. The result, exactly what you'd expect. More women can afford to go to college, more men cannot. As I said, overly simplified perhaps, but that's what's happening. So how do we fix that problem? The social justice wankers are going to love this. Equality. Yep. Does your school have a scholarship specifically set aside for women? Well, then they better have an equally valuable scholarship set aside for men. And of course, the agender, bi-curious, watermelon-kin snowflakes too. In other words, no more gender-specific scholarships. No more specifically designated free money for women. Fair is fair after all, right? Pick a side, feminists. Either you are actually in favor of the equality you've been battling about for decades, or time to admit that you're just misandrists hiding behind a socially acceptable word. Take your pick. All right, Bob, show us some toxic masculinity. California man steps in front of machete to save woman at Starbucks. A California man is being credited for heroism after he reportedly jumped in front of a woman who was allegedly being attacked by a machete-wielding man. Blaine Hodge, 27, was at a Starbucks in Bakersfield on Sunday when a woman ran into the store convinced someone was trying to kill her. She was panicked. She was saying, "Help me," and then at one point she said, "This guy's going to kill me," Hodge's friend, Joe Harris, told the news station. Harris said a man walked into the store while holding something in his hand. That's when Hodge stepped in. Everyone else was running away, and he was the first person to run straight to the action, Harris told KGET. He was like, "I'm going to stop this guy, regardless if I get stabbed or not. I can't let this woman die." Hodge was reportedly stabbed many times during the encounter and required nearly 200 stitches. The woman also suffered injuries in the attack and remains in critical condition, KBAK reported. A GoFundMe page created for Hodge said he may lose the use of his right hand and that he has upward of 6 weeks of recovery. Hodge's girlfriend, Tori Tony, told the station that she wasn't surprised at her boyfriend's actions and that she believes that he took a machete to the hands for someone else. He would do it again. He could lose an arm and he would still do it again. And that's just Blaine, she said. The man who allegedly had the machete was identified as 31-year-old Robert Daniel Reedus. He was reportedly charged with attempted murder, assault with a deadly weapon, and resisting arrest. Whew. Tough one this week, Bob. I mean, clearly the attacker was just following the toxic orders of the patriarchy by terrorizing a helpless woman, so that part's easy. He was just doing the stereotypical man thing. That's what they teach boys in school, you know. When all the girls are off learning how to apply makeup, frizz their hair, wear pantyhose, and demand diamonds, or whatever the hell it is girls do when guys aren't around, boys are being taught how to torture, abuse, and oppress the womenfolk. Mr. Hodge, though, little tougher to see the toxic part of his behavior. Fortunately, I'm here to enlighten you. You see, Mr. Hodge, what you did here was rob that woman of her power. You cheated her out of an opportunity to be equal by assuming she needed you to step in and stop it. Shut up, Bob. It's this male protective instinct that's the real problem, you see. We can't have you running around saving people who are perfectly capable of saving themselves, now can we? You horrible misogynist. Joking aside, Mr. Hodge is an everyday hero. Despite what the SJWs and feminists like to babble about, guys like him are out there everywhere, and you'll never notice them until a terrible moment like this happens. I'm sure you're going to see a whole lot of them in the Carolinas this week. Remember that when these harpies demonize men as toxic. As mentioned in the story, Hodge has a GoFundMe set up to help him in his recovery. I've linked it in the description for anyone who wants to donate to this hero. Alright, Bob, what's funny this week? Staring at boobs is just one of 6 easy ways men can live longer. Well, there you have it, ladies. We're not being sexist pigs when we stare at your chest. We're just trying to live longer. I have to say, though, whether this is actually true or not is irrelevant. We're going to do it anyway. That's it for this week. Remember the social justice mantra: women are victims, men are oppressors, and feminism is just about equality. I'll see you all next time.